pass me by. I don't recall my luck ever being this bad. Seemed like to me this the worst I ever had. Everybody's dying on me. Everybody's dying on me. Everybody's dying on me. Everybody's down, down, down on me. This I do believe, but here's what I did, y'all. I went to my brother, asked him for a loan. His wife came to the door, said your brother is not home. I left my number, but the rascal never did call. I don't believe he intend to help me at all. Everybody's dying on.
What we have to do is to take the message that we heard here today and to spread it. When I think about this case, I think about our young. I think about how it is that our children must be treated like they're ours. Amen. Until we take the position that it doesn't matter what our children are to the system, what they may be to other communities. The important thing is that they are ours. Yes. And until we begin to treat them like they're ours, no one else will respect them or treat them like they matter. I can only echo what Attorney Crawford said in terms of how exceptional Jackie and Kenneth Johnson have been. When I first met them, they had very little to say, but I have now learned that they are not speakers, they are doers. I've never seen parents who are able to convert the pain that they experience, the sorrow, the loss, into action. As Attorney Trump said, they are on that street corner almost every day of the week. It doesn't matter how hot it is, it doesn't matter how cold it is. They are committed to their child. And they're committed to the notion of justice. Yes. What you have in Valdosta, Georgia, is a level of fear. Yeah. Fear that they have decided they will break. Amen. And they have brought their demands here to this building. Because the buildings that they stand out in front of in Valdosta, Georgia, are not places where we will find justice. Right. So we come here today, we are asking Governor Deal to do what he has a responsibility to do. He has a responsibility to convene a coroner's inquest. Yes. I don't know how he will go about doing it. Yes. Let's call it magic. Most anything else that certain folk want to see happen, they make it happen.
Amen.
And so we are not here to try and point out the law to him or to say to him that he needs to be concerned about this or that. He needs to be concerned about Jackie and Kenneth Johnson. He needs to be concerned about the children that are in all of our communities. And he needs to be concerned about justice.
You know, when you look at this picture of Kenneth Johnson, and I'm so glad that his parents did what Mamie Till did for America. She's doing for America today. In that they have decided to show this picture so that the world can see, America can see, Georgia can see, Loudoun County can see, and every other county in the state of Georgia can see that a child who goes to school should not end up like this. And that in our country, you can't look at this picture and say it was an accident. A faith that has obvious trauma. A faith that's the form. America, the world expects better of Georgia, Loudoun County, and Valdosta. KJ deserves justice.
Brothers and sisters, you've heard the heart of this family. You've heard from the civil rights community. You've heard from preachers. You've heard from students. You heard a mother and father say, we stand on the corner because that's all we know to do. Attorney King said they go to Valdosta knowing that justice is not coming from that place. Well, I'm here to let you know, let the word go forth, let the message come clear that we from this state capital of Georgia are heading to Valdosta. All right! Valdosta to clear out.
We're not coming for a party.
I'm tired of begging for the lives of black boys and girls in these yet to be United States of America. We're tired of burying our sons and daughters through the hands of the oppressors. We got to be very clear that KJ life meant something. You can't just come to a rally and think that that's all that's required of you. We got to go to the scene of the crime. How many of you will go down to Valdosta and stand with this family for KJ? The reason we stand for KJ, because if we don't stand with his family, tomorrow it just might be us standing there. And so we're very clear about it. We're very clear about it real soon. Two things we need you to do before we get out of here. There are some sign-in sheets that are floating around. If you're serious and you're ready to go to Valdosta, we're not talking in the next 5 to 6 weeks, we're talking real soon. We just want to make sure that Valdosta understand that freedom don't have any boundaries, that justice don't have any boundaries. We're coming by bus and car, walking and carpooling, hitchhiking. They don't stand alone. January 11th is today. We'll have buses leaving from the city. All over. Valdosta is a little small town. But it holds some big keys to the solution to the issue.
Oh yes, oh yes.
And we want this family to feel the love that emanates from us.
Yes.
You can hear and feel their pain. They're not going to stand by themselves. And some of us are seriously committed to this. Are you seriously committed to standing with this family? All right, the talking is over. I saw Reverend Martin. Is Reverend Martin still standing out there? If he is, if he make his way. If not, I saw his hat. We're going to close out in the same manner that we came. I want you to grip the hand of the person standing next to you. And I want you to hold it very intentionally. Because you're holding the hands of God's great gift. The reason our hearts are heavy is because only God can give life. And he should be the only one that could take it. And we know without a shadow of a doubt that this wasn't about no tennis shoe. How many of y'all know that? We wanted to believe that lie. But we know that it wasn't true. Our spirit wouldn't even let us believe that lie. And so we come now intentionally locked together, black and white, young and young and hard, student and those who never saw the inside of a school, believing that God will give us the answer. Yes. But we also know that God works through men and women. And so with every heart connected, come on, Reverend Warner, before I start praying, and I'll pray a 2-hour prayer because I know God will answer indeed. But I want you to know, I've lived long enough to know that the fervent prayers of the righteous avail as much. They didn't want us to know what we already know. They just wanted us to believe this was a tennis shoe case. Fingernails missing, organs missing, everything missing, truth missing. But God said that he is the revealer of all secrets. And that which was hidden will be revealed. And I don't know about you, I'm going to go with God. Because he's a doctor that never lost a patient. He's a lawyer that never lost a case. And even in this thing, he's going to make the cricket places straight. And now to end us in the posture of prayer, we pray according to our various faith traditions. I want you to know we are a coalition of Muslims and Christians and Jews and agnostic and non-believers. There's room at the table of justice for KJ and his family. To close us out with prayer, let's welcome again Reverend Raphael Warnock, the senior pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church.
Reach out and join hands, touch somebody, hold somebody's hand. Gracious God, you are known by many names, worshipped in many houses, but you are the God of justice.
Yes.
And so we call now on your name. We lift up prayers for our brother Kenneth and our sister Jackie. No pain is worse than when nature is reversed. Rather than the child burying the parent has to bury the child. And so we ask now that you would open the crystal fountain and allow your healing waters to flow. We pray, oh God, that you would look with mercy upon a grieving mother and a grieving father. Mary stood at the foot of the cross.
Yes.
As her son suffered and died, we pray for this mother. We pray for this father as they stand on the threshold of tragedy. And grant, oh God, that our theology will not be so glib and superficial. That we will find ourselves coming up with easy answers saying, this is the will of God. No, this is not the will of God. Your will is never demonstrated in tragedy. Your will is demonstrated in how we respond to tragedy. And so, God, we pray that you would take a bad situation and that you would lift it up to a higher purpose. And help us to find our purpose, to find our voice in the struggle for justice. We remember KJ. A young man with hopes and dreams, a young man who laughed and who cried, a young man with a bright future. We remember KJ. His blood cries out like Abel's blood from the grave. And as we remember him, help us to pay appropriate tribute to him by defending all of our children, by standing up for the rule of law, for equal protection under the law, so that all of our children might be saved. And together we might build a beloved community in the name of the God who loves us into freedom and frees us into love. We offer this prayer. Amen.
Brothers and sisters, if you're holding a sign-in sheet, please hold it up so we'll know to collect them as well as sign in.
No, it's not.
This is the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Rhymes, and we are standing on the Capitol. We have heard a lot of talk about Governor Deal. We heard a lot of talk about the death of KJ. And we heard a lot of talk about how we're going to march and how we're going to protest. But often, the people who makes the difference, the people who really are out in the ditches every day, never are allowed or permitted to stand on a platform on a day like today. We have a brother right here that many people talk down to his organization, but you will not find in the history or in the archival record any hate to the level of the Klan or other white supremacist group as you will the Black Panther Party. My beautiful brother, what's your name?
Hashim Nzinga, National Chief of Staff of the Black Panther Party.
Peace be unto you, brother. What do you think about the day, and tell us what you're doing under the new Black Panther Party under brother Shabazz?
And since we left you in Valdosta, on the ground in Valdosta, I became the chairman of the party.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to do that for you.
Right.
And now I'm the chairman of the Black Panther Party. And you know, it's a tragedy to stand on these Georgia steps with all these racist marks that they make us remember their racism and their slavery and the slavery of our people. And we have to come here in 2013 on the eve of Nelson Mandela's burial.
Yes, sir.
And still talk about lynching.
Yes, sir.
Because KJ, as we call him, was a lyncher.
Yes, sir.
Was a modern day lyncher. A white shirt lynched a black child in Valdosta, Georgia in 2013. And covered it up with the criminal justice system. Now the question ain't about the governor of Georgia. The question is about Barack Obama, who's a black president. The question is about Eric Holder, who runs what they call, what is it the title now?
Department of Justice.
I wanted to make sure I remember that Eric Holder holds the highest seat in prosecution.
Yes, sir.
Where is Eric Holder?
Yes, sir.
Where would a white prosecutor be? Where would Gonzalez be was under Bush? He'll be in Valdosta to prosecute us if we would have did this to any white child anywhere. See, we can't separate the race all the time because it protects our enemy and he keep killing us. Mandela is a great man. He died for peace. He was in jail 27 years illegally for peace. But Winnie Mandela, after they killed them babies in Sharksville, she said it's unnatural for us to be burying our children. Our children are supposed to bury us.
Yes, sir.
So if we sit here as black men, educators, we got more PhDs, we got more bachelor's degrees, we got more master's degrees, we're doctors, we're lawyers, we're judges. That's okay. You go ahead. We're president of the United States, I just said. We are the Attorney General of the United States. How in the hell do we got a black president and a black Attorney General, and they ain't down here making this the landmark case after we let Trayvon Martin killer just slip away? I went to jail over that. Now they gave the man the gun back. He's trying to use it on his own wife, his own family. We knew he was a beast from the start, and you did too, but you freed him. And now you take KJ. Enough is enough. Eric Holder has to speak louder on this issue. Because if you want us to get the ghettos together, if you want us to get the gangbangers together, if you want us to stop black on black crime, which we understand and we work on, we can't go back to 1960, 1940, 1920, in the 1600s and deal with this white lynching. We can't do it. So I asked the United States government, not no white governor of Georgia, I asked Barack Obama and his direct man in charge of prosecuting, Eric Holder, to do your job and make your mark in history on this one, brother. And make sure KJ straight out murders. Like the father said, my man, that man is strong, that wife is strong. You got 3,000 people in school. You got the principal, you got the police, you got students. This baby died in the middle of the day in a gym, looking for a shoe, beat and abused like Emmett Till of 55. No, we can't take it no more. We just left Valdosta. We met you in Valdosta on the ground.
Yes, sir.
We was on the ground with Brother McHale out of that region, day one. And I swear, brother, I thought on this one, it would be easy.
Yes, sir.
See, every time there's a revolutionary, you think it's gonna be easy, you say, okay, they got the baby's body, they got the autopsy, they redug the body, they see his organs missing, they done bagged it out from accident to murder. Okay, we're going somewhere. Here we are standing months later with the same situation, begging some white government, some white man to give us mercy on our murdered child. If Frederick Douglass and every great person before us say, if you continue to beg your oppressor to stop oppressing you, you're going to be oppressed to your grave. We can no longer beg for justice in a case like this. But we asked Eric Holder, not no darn white man that stands behind this racist flag in Georgia, which is Dixie, and against our people. And they're going to stay against our people. This is a red state. This is a Tea Party state. This is a people that are going to keep oppressing us. You can't ask your oppressor to stop oppressing you. So we do ask, and respectfully ask our Attorney General to step up and make your mark, like the FBI Director Hoover made his mark on Marcus Garvey, like he made his mark on Martin Luther King, like he made his mark on our Malcolm X. He wiped our leaders out. I'm not asking you to wipe out innocent people like Hoover did. I'm asking you for justice on a clear case, undeniable case of murder. The white sheriff had something to do with it. Valdosta's coming up, and you, brother, told me in Valdosta they got a jail and a criminal justice system down there where over 37 blacks have been killed in jail.
31 jail deaths from 1994 to 2009.
How many?
31. From 1994 to 2009. And from 2009, won't nobody talk about it. It's like top secret. The governor of the state of Georgia, Eric Holder, everybody in the state of Georgia in any position of power knows about these deaths, but nobody is saying anything about it. We have been suffering. Judge Hugh Lawson, the Honorable Judge Hugh Lawson ruled in June of 1997 with 105 violations, gave Lowndes County 2 years to come in compliance. When I wrote the district attorney, David Miller, and even the Honorable Judge and several governors, nothing was done about it, say they are not even under the Open Records Act. Therefore, the people in the state of Georgia can't find out how many people have died in the Lowndes County Jail from 2009 to 2013. And yet, this is why I say, we keep calling on these people to investigate. It is time now for us to do something other than ask.
Exactly right, because as they try to portray Nelson Mandela as a weak man who wanted us all to get along, Nelson Mandela, when you look at the story of Steve Biko and South African struggle, you will notice the parallel. They always show the prisoners in jail assassinating themselves, accidental murders, and that was in South Africa. But in Lowndes County, where you live,
yes, sir,
31 black people have been found in jail,
black and white,
in custody of the system.
Yes, sir.
And we didn't know that until we came to Valdosta about 4 months ago, me and Attorney Malik G.B.R. This is a tragedy, and it hadn't been investigated. Hadn't been nobody prosecuted. Ain't no 31 people in jail killed themselves.
Well, in fact, Lowndes County and Valdosta are leading the state of Georgia in jail deaths. We have more jail deaths in Lowndes County than Fulton County. That's a fact that have been published in the South Georgia and North Florida newspaper.
Well, this is what we got to do. When we come to Valdosta, as the father of KJ said, January 12th, we got to go see the sheriff. We can't let the sheriff hide behind a building or hide behind his badge. He got to speak to us. I heard he ain't been speaking to nobody since the hidden hand.
Well, my beautiful brother, what's your name again?
Hashim Nzinga.
Hashim Nzinga, and you're with the Black Panther Party, right?
That's right.
I want you to explain to me, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, how could it be that I am under a 210-day criminal trespass warning and I haven't violated any law? Wes Taylor didn't file it, the sheriff don't know nothing about it, the probate judge don't know nothing about it, Superior Court don't know nothing about it, the federal courts don't know nothing about it, the Department of Justice under Eric Holder have been told about it from the people in the Justice Department who's supposed to call the Georgia Secretary of State, and nothing has been done. Nobody has told me nothing. I am a retired military veteran that did 21 years in the armed forces, and yet they can deny me the right to even go to any Lowndes County High School game. That wasn't brought out today.
When did this take place?
This happened on May the 25th of this year, after the death of KJ.
Have you challenged it? Have you broke it? Have you went where you wanted to go?
I have not challenged it yet in terms of an attorney, but I have an attorney. My thing right now is the sheriff told me that he was going to get back with me, and so I'm still waiting for Sheriff Prine to get back with me after 210 days.
Let me tell you why it has to. My teacher and mentor, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, who was the chairman of the Black Panther Party before Attorney G.B.R, the Senate brought him, and they tried to silence him and tell him he couldn't speak public. Whenever a system come at you like that, that means you are the person to be listened to.
Yes, sir.
You are a threat. That's an honor for a system to tell you that they fear you to the point that they don't want you at any social gathering. What do you think they talking about today and all week? Mandela, what did they do to Winnie Mandela?
Yes,
what
sir.
did they do to Mandela? They took them away from the people and said they couldn't be around nothing but one person at a time because they don't want the masses to hear you. But God, man, is not God. And the white man is not God at all, and it's not his nature to be righteous, and he ain't righteous. For all the civil rights people, keep praying who you pray to, but I'm saying to you this, brother. Even though he did all of this, you got one of the most powerful videos and one of the most powerful internet shows in America. How can they stop you from talking to the masses when I check on you every 30 days and see what you're up to?
Yes,
and I got emails going out to over 80,000 people with our broad email list, and some of them calling me back saying, who is this? That should be a no-brainer.
Once again, this is the Honorable, and I do call him Honorable Tyrone Brooks, Representative Tyrone Brooks. Tyrone Brooks is no stranger to South Georgia. If you remember, on some of my earlier videos, very little was said today about the Equipment 10 plus 2. But I wanted to say something about them along with a whole lot more. But I just want to say that Representative Tyrone Brooks came to Brooks County along with David Lucas, Helen Butler, just a host of
Robert
Brown,
Joe Lowry.
Joseph Lowry came, that's right. The whole Gabio.
Charles Steele.
Charles Steele came down, that's right.
D. Dawkins Hinkle.
Yes, sir. So we're here on the courthouse, the Capitol steps in Atlanta. And I just want to ask you, my beautiful brother, what do you think of today's event? And fill us in a little bit, because Valdosta and Lowndes County seems like it's going wild. What say you, my beautiful brother?
I think today's event was absolutely fantastic, and I want to commend those who organized it. And I want to commend the family, the Johnsons, for coming up to represent their son. And I want to commend Attorney C.D. King and Attorney Crump. I think the lawyers are doing a great job, and I think the lawyers, along with the community activists, have forced this case to another level. I was informed of this case in January after Kendrick was found dead, and I was hoping that the people in the Valdosta area would join with Equipment 10,
right?
And we could have combined movements, because when we brought Gabio back to Equipment in February, and we had Senator Steele there, we had the chair of the Black Caucus, D. Dawkins Hagler there, we had Senator Gloria Butler, Representative Sharon Teague, Councilwoman Elaine Lucas from Macon, Vice President Gabio, Reverend Henry Ficken, the Treasurer of Gabio. I thought that that would give us an opportunity to get the folks out of Lowndes County over to Brooks County, and we could all be supporting each other. Well, it didn't work out that way. The people over in Equipment in Brooks County have carried on their movement, and they've won some successes, of course. The state could not get a conviction in the first trial. It was a mistrial hung jury. Dr. Dennett was up here 3 weeks ago at the King Center with us. Dr. Nancy Dennett, the president of the Board of Education there in Brooks County. And she gave us a report. And she said, you know, we have a black mayor in Equipment now. And she said, you know, we have a black superintendent in Brooks County now. And I knew about that because she announced it at the Gabio Convention in Savannah in June at Savannah State. But I told her, I said, you know, Dr. Dennett, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise that you all were rounded up, arrested, held in jail, bonded out, then indicted, then suspended, back in
by the governor.
I said, maybe it's a blessing in disguise, because it seemed like the attack on you all woke up a sleeping giant.
Yes, sir.
Or something. Well, maybe this activity around the death of Kendrick Johnson is going to wake up that sleeping giant in Lowndes County and in other counties where we have deaths. Moore's Ford Bridge lynching in Monroe.
Yes, sir.
We've been trying to wake up that county for a long time. And even though we bring the world to Monroe, Walton County every year, at least twice, April and July, the folks in Walton County are still asleep. So, you know, all I'm saying is, anytime there's a movement, anytime there are people coming together to address injustices, it's a good thing. And it's ironic, as we come here today, our brothers and sisters all across Southern Africa are celebrating the life and legacy of Nelson Mandela. I talked about that yesterday at the Coalition for the People Agenda. I talked about how in 1976, how Dick Gregory convinced Dr. Ralph Abernathy and many of us that we should have a march on the White House and on the South African Embassy in D.C. Went to jail at the embassy in D.C. in 1976, Thanksgiving Day. That was the first jailing around the end of apartheid. Yesterday, I talked about, and Jesse Jackson did some talking about this also at our regular coalition meeting yesterday. We were meeting down in Clayton County at the Family Life Center on Fairfield Road, pastored by Bishop Land and his wife. And I mentioned it, and Jesse just picked up on it. Jesse said, yeah. He said, you know, the struggle here in America freed South Africa. He said, Dr. King and Abernathy taught Nelson Mandela how to be a leader. The ANC, Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, all of those great leaders in the African National Congress. And I said, you know what? Maybe across the continent of Africa, maybe our brothers and sisters will begin to wake up and understand that they control the continent. They have to begin to work together. They got to stop the killing. We got to stop the foolishness we see going on in Central Africa right now. We've got to deal with issues here in North America, but we cannot forget about what's happening on our continent, our mother continent of Africa. Well, this is a great day today. I just told Martin King III when he walked up this morning and said, we were complaining about Tom Watson being right here in this empty space. We started complaining over 10 years ago. Now Tom Watson has been moved across the continent. You can't even see him. He's over there with Herman. I told Martin King, I said, this week, I'm going to drop legislation in this week calling for the placement of a statue of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. right here in this spot. And if the state says no, we can't put him in this spot, then I have another recommendation.
Why would they? Why would they? Why would
They'll
they?
find a reason. They always do. I want to put Dr. King on that corner of Martin Luther King and Washington if they say no because they moved Tom Watson. Now the state says we moved Tom Watson because we're going to have to do renovation here and it won't be safe to leave that statue here. Well, we say no, move it because he was one of the most vile racists that ever lived, attacking blacks, Jews, and Catholics. So if Dr. King could be on the mall in Washington between Lincoln and Washington, greeting the world as we come to the U.S. Capitol. If he can be in the U.S. Capitol building itself and have a national holiday, why can't his home state honor him with a statue in front of the state?
Wow, wow.
Right around the corner from where he was born.
Wow.
About 5 blocks from here, Dr. King was born on Auburn Avenue.
Wow.
Why can't the state put a statue of Dr. King here or on that corner to say, you know what, we're going to recognize the man who not only changed Georgia, the USA, and the world, but we're going to honor him because everybody in the world honors him. When you travel North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and you say Martin Luther King Jr., people take note of that. The most recognizable name in the whole world is Martin Luther King Jr.
Representative Brooks, you may have a problem with that because when President Barack Obama was re-elected, in the Valdosta Daily Times, there was not even a picture of him in the paper, nor did they put him on the front page of the Valdosta Daily Times. Moreover, when Mandela died, and when all around the world they paid tribute to that great leader, not one front page coverage was dedicated to Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was on page 12A in the Valdosta Daily Times. So the state of Georgia, well, you may have your work cut out for you, my beautiful brother.
I know we do.
Yes, sir.
We're
but I believe you'll be successful.
We are not naive about the state of Georgia. We're quite aware of the opposition that will come from the state of Georgia, as it always does. It doesn't surprise us, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to struggle. We're going to fight. We're going to continue to persevere and do the best we can while we're living on this planet.
Okay, my beautiful brother, step there with Tyrone Brooks. Let me get that. This is my beautiful brother, Tyrone, first of all. Are you ashamed to be with the Black Panther there, man?
Absolutely not.
I'm not ashamed to be with the Black Panther. You have to excuse me because I use that so loosely. I say that because I'm tired of people always labeling us, telling us who to be, our friends are, tell us who to love, who to hate, who to walk with, and who to fly with.
He can't be afraid to be with me because he had me. I'm one of his babies. I've listened to him for years,
yes,
and some of the tools we use, and that's what shocked the world as we go around the world. Matter of fact, most of the tools I use is from Dr. King. It's from Jose Williams, who I used to go to his radio shows. He used to kick me out, him and Alley Pat.
And TV shows.
But one thing they all taught me, be truthful, be righteous, but do the work. And the key is, we don't have enough people to do the work, but the person we all serve, which is Jesus, he warned us about that. He said the work is plentiful, but the workers are few. He said the harvest is right, but the workers are few.
Yes, sir.
So we're looking for to make Dr. Brooks feel well. What I mean by well in his heart, after all the years he's done put in and continues to put in, he's looking for some young people.
Amen.
He's looking for some young people with the spirit to keep this work up, because as we know with KJ now, and Trayvon Martin, and as we know we're still dealing with statues. Look at our heart. This is our heart. King has one of the most visited centers in the world. And we display Gandhi at his center. We don't mind displaying other people outside our race. At King Center, you see Gandhi. But they don't want to display King in his own birth. But you know what I love when I listen to some of the civil rights and SCLC gentlemen talk about King? One thing I love about it, they say when King left his house, birth house, he would get to the fire station, see blacks. He'd get to his church, his preacher, his father, black. He'll get to the funeral parlor, to the drugstore. He'll get to the newspaper. He'll get to the Atlanta Life, black. So by the time he got to this racist capital, he didn't mind turning around and going back, because everything behind him was black business and black people. And that kept him from being what they call dehumanized. Yes. That kept his self-esteem right. And that's why he was able to overcome, and they had to give him the Nobel Peace Award
the greatest award they say you can get in this nation. And they have to recognize him every year. And that's why the brother Brooks, that's one of the things that I know in his lifetime of struggle he enjoyed. His monument is between who?
His monument on the Mall in Washington is between Lincoln and Washington. But we ought to hear Reverend Bernice King, Dr. King's baby daughter, speak, because she said it in this Capitol in January when the ceremony was being held to supposedly honor her daddy. I walked in the rotunda, and I'm looking at her speak, and she is speaking with all of the so-called leaders around her. And she says, my daddy, these are her words, she said, my daddy was the most hated man in America, and they killed him. And now they celebrate it because he's dead. Now those are her words. Reverend Bernice King, who runs the King Center.
How long ago was she?
This is January of this year in the Capitol. But then the first Saturday in June, Reverend C.T. Vivian, the president of SCLC, now at the King Center with Moores Ford Bridge victims and other victims from around the nation who were there for a weekend with Syracuse University. I walked in, Reverend King came down to greet us. She recognized Reverend Vivian and myself as veterans of SCLC, and she said, my daddy, she told the audience, she said, my daddy was the most hated man in America, and they killed him. And she said, Mr. James Earl Ray didn't kill my daddy. My daddy was killed by the government. And she said, but my mama took us to meet Mr. James Earl Ray in 1998 at that prison in Tennessee. We spent over 3 hours with Mr. James Earl Ray, and we came out, and she said, my mother, Miss Coretta Scott King, held a news conference and told the media, we are more convinced than ever before that Mr. James Earl Ray did not kill my husband. And so when you hear from the baby daughter of Dr. King today speak, you will hear her say what many of us have always known, that the greatest man that we've known in our lifetime. And I said it at the King Center in August before we went up to Washington for the 50th anniversary celebration. I said, the greatest man to walk on this planet since Christ, Martin Luther King Jr., born right here on Auburn Avenue. Nobody recognized him when he was growing up because they assumed he was just one of them. He's just like a little boy walking up and down Auburn. They call him ML. I said, but now that he's dead, shot and murdered at the age of 39, Christ was taken away from us at the age of 33, King at the age of 39. I said, all of a sudden we now love him so much that we want to pass holidays and name streets and bridges and roads and schools in his honor. But while he lived, he was ostracized. He was hounded by the government. The FBI, G.B.R. Hoover targeted him. They did everything they could to destroy his marriage, his family. And then finally they said, we can't stop King. We must kill King.
And let me echo,
at the age of 39.
Let me echo on that with Representative Brooks. That's why I say it's hard to talk about Panthers and the SCLC different, because the same J. Edgar Hoover said Dr. King was the most dangerous man alive, said that the new Black Panther Party was the most dangerous organization alive. So he didn't make no difference between the Panthers and Dr. King work. The same man who assassinated Dr. King assassinated Fred Hampton Jr. in Chicago.
And Mark Clark.
And Mark Clark. The same man, they don't make no difference as long as you got a voice of truth. And like brother say, you can't be stopped. The most, the saddest moment of my young life coming to Atlanta is when I had to read the letter from the Birmingham jail. King wasn't talking about enemies. He was talking about people that so-called loved him, telling him what he needed to slow down. What did the letter say from the Birmingham jail? It said the world is moving with jet-like speed, but they want us to move at the pace of a horse and buggy. They killed King for that. But this last speech King did, I've been to the mountaintop. I've seen the coming of the Lord. It's a 47-minute speech, but they don't want to talk about the King that we heard. That same King said, stop buying Wonder Bread. Stop supporting Coke. That same King said, he'd like to talk about New Jerusalem, but he said we need a new Tennessee, a new Atlanta, a new New York. He said, yeah, when we get to heaven, we're going to shout around our shoes, but he said we need some shoes and some suits right now. King was in reality, King was going out, he left that to do the poor people campaign. He said America had wrote him an insufficient check. He wasn't going back to do no march, talking about I got a dream. He said he was going with the poor people and y'all was going to build
we carried
a house right there. I'm just talking about what he said his last
know what he said.
They knew that King wasn't coming to play no more. He was coming back to collect what was due to his people.
Well, Dr. King was going to leave Memphis with Abernathy, and they were going to fly to Monroe, Georgia, to take on the Moores Ford Bridge litigation. That's why Jose Williams had me assigned to Monroe, waiting on the plane. I get the news from CBS and NBC that Dr. King is dead in Memphis, and we all went to Memphis at night. Poor People's Campaign was carried out by Dr. Ralph David Abernathy and all of the staff. We were in Washington on the mall. We were there with tent, Resurrection City, tents up and down that mall. It rained on us every day. Some of us were arrested in D.C. Dr. Abernathy, Jose Williams, Willie Bolin, Bobby Nelson, Jimmy Wells, and I were arrested together in front of the Capitol, taken to the District of Columbia jail, held there. Willie Bolin, Jimmy Wells, Bobby Nelson, and I stayed in that jail for 12 days. Then they shipped us across the Potomac to the Lorton, Virginia Federal Prison, where we did the rest of our time in the hole.
How much?
13 days in the hole. And when we were released, we convinced Dr. Abernathy and Jose to get out because they were needed at Resurrection City. We did our time, and we came out, and Dr. Abernathy had us to come back over to Resurrection City, drove us back. Dr. Walter Fontroy took us back, put us up on the stage. Dr. Abernathy was presiding. Stevie Wonder, Joan Baez, Peter Paul and Mary, Aretha Franklin, all of them were singing these songs, and we are standing up on this stage, 22, standing up on this stage, and Dr. Abernathy called our names. And he said, these are heroes. They've been in jail 30 days for marching and picketing during the Poor People's Campaign. We were not the only one arrested. We just happened to be the ones who stayed in jail the longest during that Poor People's Campaign. But the food stamp program came out of the Poor People's Campaign. We saw more federal funding allocated to deal with social issues out of the Poor People's Campaign. We inspired black folks to go back home and do voter registration and activities to put black folks in public offices. Unfortunately, many of the black folks who got in these positions didn't understand the importance of carrying on the movement from the positions from which they've been elected. They got in and they got caught and hung up on their little titles and their little positions, and they abandoned the movement.
Wow.
And that's why our people don't vote anymore. Because they, well, the movement put y'all in office, but you all are not doing the movement work from the offices in which you serve. Whether you're in Congress, whether you're in state legislatures, county commissions, city councils, school boards, judgeships, sheriff's position, wherever y'all are, you're not doing Dr. King's work.
Okay.
And that's why our people are not voting.
Okay, let me try to say.
They've said we have failed them.
Right, let me try to say and wrap this up a little bit now.
Yeah, wrap it up.
And that's this right here.
John Evans is here from the NAACP.
Come on, brother. I gotta give you. Come on, give me your
He's
name.
in the equipment.
Yes, sir. Yeah, give us your name, brother. And tell us
John Evans, stand over here.
Yes, sir.
Stand where I was standing.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, my beautiful brother. We got to include everybody on our banner, man.
Soldier here. John Evans, president of the CAB NAACP.
Okay. And you up here today? What brings you up here today, man?
Because of that murder down in Valdosta.
All right.
Brother Johnson.
And what's the status? And what's the status of the NAACP in the state of Georgia national? Some people say that the NAACP have ran its course and is no longer a viable part of the black community and no longer needed. What say you to them people?
Oh, I would say to them, you're wrong, you're dead wrong. It's relevant more so now than before. It's that the black community generally don't understand that, don't support it, and it makes it very difficult. And of course, you know the word's going out all the time. We're 4 years old. We got to be doing something right.
Yes, sir.
There's no question about it. You know, we don't always agree on this, that, or the other, but we agree on one thing, that there's trouble in the land.
Yes, sir.
And so we got to stand up and fight.
Thank you so very much.
Let me just say this. When you look at Brother John, if you look at the recent Atlanta papers, you see the police escorting him out of their city council meetings, out of their school board meetings, because he's on the front line fighting. And for those people that say the NAACP, the SCLC, the New Black Panther Party ain't fighting, it's because they scared to do the damn work. People want to sit back and talk about people ain't working, but where in the hell are you? Somewhere trying to Skype. You can't Skype your way out of this. You're going to have to put some boots on and get on the ground. You're going to have to be like Thurgood Marshall. You're going to have to be like Charles Hampton Houston. You're going to have to be like W.E.B. Du Bois, but you're going to have to be like some Nat Turner. You're going to have to be like some Denmark Vesey. You're going to have to be like some W.E.B. Du Bois, but you're going to also be like some Marcus Garvey, and you're going to have some black power in you because these people ain't moving till you move them out your damn way. Black power.
Black power. Peace be unto you. Thank you, my beautiful brother. Keep doing what you're doing, my beautiful brother. Yes, God bless you, my beautiful brother. Thank you.
Man, all the time.
Now, as I was saying, my beautiful brother, you were talking about, where were we?
We were talking about you can't silence the truth.
Yes, sir. And I was talking about how an event like this too often, yeah, this is where I was. Why is it that sometimes we don't want you to get on the stage because maybe of that Black Panther? But I always want you to know, I have no problem with the Black Panther. And I want you to shake on that, brother. Truth is truth. I don't care whether it comes from a red bird or Black Panther. Tell the truth.
But that's just a perception.
Yes, sir.
Because they tried to silence Hearing Newton.
Yes, sir.
They tried to silence Bobby Seals. They tried to silence Stokely Carmichael, our brother H. Rap Brown, but they shot Dr. King.
Yes, sir.
So it ain't just Black Panther.
Right,
it's anybody who's dealing with the truth. They didn't just shoot little Huff, and they didn't shoot just Fred Hampton in Chicago. They shot Medgar Evers.
Yes, sir.
They would shoot anybody who's telling the truth. You don't have to just be a Panther. Panthers came out of the struggle of a church. It was the Deacons of Defense who first started arming themselves to protect the church.
Yes, sir.
Black men have been talking like me all their lives. So we got to make sure and be clear. When a Valdosta, Georgia in 2013 tried to silence a murder of a child, when it seemed like everybody should be embracing the truth, it shows you that we have moved with all our freedom after 1954 Brown versus the Board of Education, after the Civil Rights Bill, after the Voting Rights Bill. We have been moving backwards in the Justice Department because when you look at the concentration camps that's kidnapping our kids, everywhere you go, it could be an all-white county or all-black county. In the concentration camps of America, you got 70 to 80% black males. This is a conspiracy. You would bring somebody into Georgia and go 15 miles out of Georgia, you would see white men riding horses and black people with stripes on and chains still picking cotton. But now it's under the criminal justice system. But every time they violate their own laws, it seems to get tricky. We have to come to the governor for justice. We have to go to the president of the United States for a simple murder call of KJ, which is clear-cut murder.
Don't leave. Step over, brother. I ain't through with you. Hold on, hold your horse there. Come on over, brother.
All right.
My beautiful brother, you was up here in Atlanta on this day, and I just had to let you say something because I see that you also are compiling what I mean. This movement is in your memory. Am I right? This is what you recorded at Gold Plate in Valdosta.
Right.
So what else are you doing to try to bring justice to Lowndes County? By being here today, showing your face, it's commendable.
I support the cause for any injustice, no matter what race, color, creed. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. By me personally knowing the Johnson family, it's more of a personal issue, but I want justice to come to light as well as anybody else who's supporting this movement and wants to see the truth come out. I feel it's a big conspiracy dealing with certain figures in authority. But I'm not going to waver my opinion to the point of, going overboard with that. But I personally want to say to all the viewers who've been keeping up with the movement, and Brother Ryan's, you doing a great job covering the movement when you're in. I think it's time, for changes to be brought about dealing with the Lowndes County system.
Yes, sir.
I have personally been a part of that system. But it's a lot of truth that has been covered up.
Yes, sir.
Not just with this case, but in a lot of cases.
It goes way back.
Yeah. So, and if you do your homework and understand what Lowndes County is about Austin, what it means in its definition of its terminology, about Austin is the veil of reality. We live in a Bible Belt region, so it's time for us to loosen that Bible belt, pull the britches down so we can show the truth of what's going on.
Amen, brother. You take care of yourself, brother. Power to the people. Keep it moving in the right direction, brother. Thank you so much. I'm George Buster Rhymes, and this is the Ghetto Free Press. These are locks of cotton. Locks of cotton that I know a hell of a lot about because I'm from Brooks County, Georgia. I'm 8 miles outside of Americus, Georgia. And when I look out at all of the cotton that somebody will reap the benefits of today, they call it industry. It's nothing new. Cotton has been around for a long time. I can remember picking these cotton bolls and flying the cotton, planting the cotton, taking it to the gin. We even had cotton stacked in our house. We would move the beds out so we could put the cotton in the house that we lived in until it was time to take it to the gin. Today is a new day. Young black boys and girls, I leave you with the message. Be thankful for what God have done for us as a people. Be proud of your blackness. Be proud of your kinky hair. Be proud of what God made you as a human being. Don't let nobody take away your pride in what God has made you. Everybody are focused on Nelson Mandela. But before there was a Nelson Mandela, there was blacks in your community who stood up against oppression. They went to church, but they didn't just punk out under pressure. They was involved in trying to bring a better world into existence for their children and offspring. They didn't just shout, fall down on the floor and holler hallelujah, 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 and hallelujah. They were real men who was willing to die for the promises of what God decreed in the volume of sacred law. The black man in Africa had religion before King James was ever born. The black man in Africa studied astrology and religion and economics all at the same time. But something happened to us on our way to the bus station. We began to feel sorry for ourselves, as if though God made a mistake in making our skin black and our hair kinky. But when you look at our hair, you don't find lice in your hair. You don't find ticks in your hair. You don't find yourself, for the most part, getting sunburned so easy as others. So no matter how much people will criticize you, just remember that God did not make a mistake. God made black people like he made white people because he wanted to see his handiwork. And he wanted to see his creation to learn how to accept all people beyond the pigmentation of their skin and kin. And now, let me turn around and focus on one other area, and that is this emblem right here. And this is, God so happened to have this here today to talk about Georgia Southwestern State University searching for the right college. And who else do they have on their logo except a white woman and a black man sitting together? Now, if Georgia Southwestern State University is not fair in the working rights of blacks in terms of employment, being treated fairly on the job, and if they cannot file EEOC complaints without being retaliated against, then we are regressing back if we ever progressed. And so the Ghetto Free Press want to say to Georgia Southwestern State University, I have received calls from students and workers at your university that says you need to improve upon the black and white race issue on employment. Now, I'm going to send this to you before I do a separate video and highlight some of the people who are having major problems with peoples in leadership along the lines of being unfair to black African American students. And I believe it's time for a change. I'm going to give you a few more days and I will do a video along the lines of EEOC complaints that have been filed against the university and what's going on there that leadership at Georgia Southwestern State University do not want to talk about. I live in Valdosta, but it is indeed something that the NAACP should pick up on, because nobody should have to suffer after filing an EEOC complaint and then be treated like some of the people that have called the Ghetto Free Press in Valdosta, Georgia. My phone number, 229-251-8645, or bostongBR@gmail.com. That's bostongBR@gmail.com. To all the students who are having problems, keep sending your complaints to me, and we're going to see if we can't get somebody in Atlanta to take a look at EEOC, race relations and equal employment, and being treated fairly at Georgia Southwestern University. Once again, from the cotton fields to the university. But we must understand that we had to fight every step of the way. We had to fight just to get a drink of water at a water fountain. We had, let me repeat. We had to fight just to get a drink of water from a water fountain. The birds could come drink from the water fountain, but blacks couldn't. We had to fight just to use the bathroom. We had to fight just to get a right to fight. We had to fight just to be called a human being. We had to fight, and we continue to fight. And we ain't no ways tired yet, because the God of the universe is on our side. Bye-bye. We're gone.
Father, Heavenly Father, we're living in hell down here. Some soldiers are coming back. They don't have a home. Their house been repossessed. Everything they had is gone. Congress is fighting against the president. Things they are saying just don't make good sense. If they would all work together, they could get something done. Instead of all this fighting, they'll have jobs for everyone. Father, Father, Heavenly Father, we're living in hell down here. Father, Father, Heavenly Father, we're living in hell down here. Some nursing homes not fit for dogs to live in. Yet they'll take your money, look in your face and grin. Many homeless people are living out on the streets. Some don't have clothes on their back. Some don't have shoes on their feet. Father, Father, Heavenly Father, we're living in hell down here. Father, Father, Heavenly Father, we're going to hell down here. My ears have heard things no man should have heard. My eyes have seen things no man should have seen. So I say to God, you made me strong. I have the power and I must go on. Congress is fighting against the president. Some of the things they're saying will never make good sense. If they all would come together, they could get something done. Instead of all this fighting, they have jobs for everyone. Father, Father, Heavenly Father, we're living in hell down here. Father, Father, Heavenly Father, we're going to hell down here. Father, Father, Heavenly Father, we're going to hell down here. Father, Father, Heavenly Father, we're going to hell down here. Oh, Father, 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 we're going to hell down here. You gave us a brain, we failed to use it, and that's the reason why we're going to hell.